Valentine's Day every single day of the year. It's 12:07. Glad to have you with us. What did I get her? Nothing. Oh, no, my friend. No, my wife is awesome, incredible, wonderful. I got her flowers about 4 days ago. I brought those home because I found a couple of bouquets that I thought that she would like. That is truth. And Erica very much believes as I do. Now, look, she's a holiday person. She wants a present on Christmas. For years, I got her a bunny on Easter because her dad always got her a bunny on Easter. And I kind of stopped that a few years ago. But no, don't shake your head. If she were here, she's not even in town. She left yesterday to go get the big one back. She went to visit her parents in Montgomery and to pick up the big one who was out of town because they were building a fence next door to our house.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me. I'm telling you, this is the way we do things. She is a big believer that it's a load of hooey, as she would say it, that the greeting card company. And for years, by the way, it took me years and years and years to accept that she was being honest. I thought she was, doing that just to test me. But no, my wife, and I hope that many of you wives out there in the listening audience feel the same way, or at least perhaps are inspired by this revelation that you don't demand of your husband, because this doesn't go one way. And I know we got news to do, and I'm going to talk about the shooting at the Michigan State campus last night, and I'm going to talk about the balloons, and I'm going to talk about Pete Buttigieg as we were trashing. How about this? As we were trashing Pete Buttigieg on the show yesterday, he was making an embarrassment of himself in Washington, D.C. I have the audio. Don't you worry. I also have something on me. Oh, no. There's something on me. Ah! Okay. I think no, there's something crawling. Okay. No, look. If there's something crawling on me, the show stops. I'm not continuing. I'm telling you, camera, no camera, radio, no radio. When I almost said the S word. When crap's crawling on me, the show stops until we figure out what's crawling on me. Okay? Just pull back the curtain a little bit. And there was something crawling on me. I don't know what it was. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Valentine's Day. So it's not a two-way street. And that maybe more than anything annoys me about all of this. And I'm safe and comfortable in as much as the individual in my life who I would be responsible buying flowers for, candies for, whatever, feels very much the same way. That it is a concocted, nonsensical holiday designed to get men off their butts to buy nice things for women and, feed the greeting card companies and the flower companies and the chocolate companies and all of that. You can do that any day of the year, and it's far more effective if you do it other days of the year. I know some women get off on it. I know some women enjoy it. I know some women, they would be devastated if their significant others did not do something for them on Valentine's Day. And I know this because of an annual junket, an annual tradition of mine, Matt Murphy, not the show. I don't do this as a show or a radio stunt or a promotion. But if you want to have some fun this afternoon, and guys, particularly if you have already established what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to be this person, you go to the Publix or the Kroger or your, shopping area of your choosing. I was listening to Brian Wilson yesterday on the drive, and I guess MAPCO has flowers as well. Just go and watch at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Go into a Publix. That's where I shop. Over in Mount Juliet. On the Providence side of things, and I would ask that Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News note that. No shopping for him at the Publix on the Providence side. He's got his own Publix on the Lebanon Pike side, or whatever that's called, Highway 70. And watch as the poor, pathetic wretches slide into the Publix about 4 o'clock, and they slide themselves over to the flower department, and they pick up a bouquet of sad-looking roses, and they stand in line. They got the roses in one hand and a six-pack of Schlitz in the other, or a bottle of wine, or some candies. And there they are, the poor, pathetic wretches that can't remember what day it is. February 14th, Valentine's Day. So, there you go. Angie writes in and says, same here. Valentine's Day is for Hallmark. 1354 says, spider on your headphones! With multiple exclamation points. It was, I think, something. There was something going on in my headphones. I don't know what it was. Here's your random fact of the day, and we'll move on to other things. Random fact of the day. Any moment in your life, on average, you are within 3 feet of a spider. That is true. You can look me up. Don't believe me just because a guy on the radio says it. Go and look it up. It is my most fun, true statistic that at any given moment, on average, now mostly these spiders are very, very small. They're not like big tarantulas all. Some of them are, but for the most part, they're very tiny. But you are, on average, at any moment in your life, around 3 feet away from a spider. So, and yes, sometimes on occasion, they'll crawl into your ears. Now, that said, what did I mean about Singles Awareness Day? I celebrate Singles Awareness Day, or SAD. Today is SAD. For those that do not have loved ones in their lives, they feel particularly alone and isolated on this, a day for lovers. And so we remind ourselves that we must, too, celebrate the singles in the listening audience on Singles Awareness Day. Or SAD. We actually did a radio campaign. Well, it was a morning show thing when I was in Birmingham, where my co-host and I, we would get bouquets of flowers. Like you could nominate for the week leading up to Singles Awareness Day, or SAD, because you are SAD. We would nominate individuals. We would have people call in, like Bell could call in and nominate a buddy of his, or I could call in and nominate Bell, as the case may be. And we'd take bouquets of flowers to these single people because they didn't have anybody to give them bouquets of flowers. Not just women, men too. Men too. Do you and your wife have a rabbit dinner every Easter instead of ham like everybody else? No, I don't think we do ham on Easter. Oh, did we do ham on Easter? I guess we do ham on Easter. No, we can't have rabbit in my house because Erica had a bunny rabbit as a pet, Rupert, the floppy-eared bunny, before I knew her. And because of that, rabbits are pets, not food. I was at a wild game cook-off. I was judging a wild game cook-off one year, years and years ago, and I related to my wife that I actually ate rabbit, and she was very upset at me because she felt like I ate Rupert. So there's the answer to that question. Anyway, celebrate in a manner of your choosing. If you know a single person, give them a call today and let them know that they're loved as well. And if you have a loved one in your life, celebrate in a manner of your choosing. Who am I to tell you how to do it? I would just tell you that greeting cards are printed on paper, and they're not worth $5. And if you're like me, I've done this for years and years. Not every time, not all the time, but a lot of the time. Might I encourage you, whatever the holiday might be, whether it's Valentine's Day, guys, this is a tip for this. I'm Singles Awareness Day and all that. We're joking. We're having a good time. We're just starting the show before we get into the meat and potatoes of the content. And I tell you how the world's going to the hell in a handbasket. But this is a serious tip. I mean this. Guys, if you want to impress your girl, whether it's her birthday or your anniversary or Valentine's Day, I'm telling you guys, this works. And ladies, get ready on your texts because you're going to confirm this, okay? Go to the store, CVS, Walgreens, whatever. Buy yourself some markers. Go home, find some blank paper. If you have construction paper to make like an outer folder, that would be good. But whatever way you do it, make your own card for your significant other. Draw something, maybe, I don't know, a picture of the family on the front, maybe a photo, maybe a picture of a drawing of your house, your living quarters, or maybe a special place that you and your loved one has visited, a lake, whatever. If you like to do things, if you like to connect, it doesn't matter how bad it is. It doesn't matter that you can't draw. As a matter of fact, if you can't draw and she knows, or he knows that you don't have an ability, that makes it even better. Do your best and come from the heart and draw your green. You're not only going to save money. No, JB is wrong. JB writes, I do not believe you. She will just call you cheap. She will not, because women don't think that way. If you put your heart into it and you make it special, you don't just write I love you on a piece of paper. You have to draw a nice little scene. Maybe it's the house. Maybe it's you and the dog. Whatever it might be. Oh, sorry, I got distracted from the super text line. I'll get to you in a second. 5634. These weren't live bunnies. These were. I did not explain myself. Someone said, Matt, I think you missed the point. He asked you about eating rabbit because you said every year you got your wife a bunny. How do you and your wife not have a whole lot of bunnies in your house by now? These are stuffed. These were stuffed bunny, or different types. There's one where it's I've got a wooden bunny. She's got a metal bunny. She's got a stuffed bunny. It's just different forms of a rabbit. Her father used to get her stuffed bunnies every year for Easter, and so I continued that tradition for the first number of years we were married by getting her some form of a bunny. But none of them were alive when I got them, to my knowledge. So that answers that. But I'm telling you guys, you think I'm leading you down a path that's going to end in disaster. I'm telling you, if you get markers and you do, put a little sun in the corner and the little birds like we used to draw them, and maybe put a little green hill there. And it can be stick figures. You can do a little stick figure of your wife, and a little stick figure of you, and maybe a stick figure of the kids, and maybe a stick figure of the little dog there, and put a little house, put a little chimney up there with a little smoke rings coming out of it. And then you flip on the inside, and then you write something tender about how much you love her.
You're despicable.
I'm telling you. And JB writes, gold diggers do not appreciate homemade gifts. Well, Matt Murphy doesn't appreciate gold diggers. And this might be a good way to figure out who's who, if you know what I'm saying. Homemade, handmade. And every woman texting in on the super text line is agreeing with me. Colored pencils, markers, whatever. And you end up saving money, especially if you do this with regularity. You got the markers ready to go. You don't have to buy them every time because a greeting card's like $7 now or something ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Screw Hallmark. Okay? Love your wife. Screw Hallmark. 1220. There's love advice from Matt Murphy to you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When we come back, Pete Buttigieg has bigger fish to fry than stupid balloons or train accidents or airliners almost hitting one another. He's got to deal with the racist problem and the racism problem in the construction industry. More on that in a moment as we get started. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That really got out of hand fast.
All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. For you guys that aren't as creative when it comes to artistic endeavors like poetry, I'll help you. You call me on the Super Talk line, 615-737-9986. I'll ask you a couple of questions, and I'll write a poem for you. I'll do it on the fly, and I'll do it for free. One of our super texters is a little Patrick writes in and says, it's a day late, Matt. Would have been nice to have this advice yesterday before I dropped $30 on dumb cards. That's true. That's true. Way to get ahead of the game there. Oh, look, he sent me a picture of the dumb card. He's got 4 of them? Holy, you have dogs, don't you, Patrick? Oh, look, there's one that's a puppy butt. Oh, that's so cute. If I could do it over again, I'd only change one thing, and I'll never know what the inside says. I'm also the type of guy, I have a stack of birthday cards in my desk drawer, in my office, in my home, which Bella's seen now, by the way. And on the outside, it's black. It's a black card with white lettering. It says, this is your birthday card. And then you open it up and it says, this is the inside of it. And then you turn it over and it says, this is the back. I mean, there's that one. There's that one. And then the other one, and you can give this to your older loved ones in your life. And I'll get this a little bit wrong, but I love this card. We've run out of them now. On the front of the card is a photo of like the redwood forests in in California, Northern California. And underneath the beautiful photo of the redwoods, it says, when I think of you on your birthday, it reminds me of the beauty and the majesty of the incredible redwoods in Northern California. The glory that they represent. The gorgeousness of the scene, blah, 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 blah. And then on the inside, you turn it on the inside, and on the inside it says, thank you for planting them.
What the hell is that?
Is that just me? Anybody over 50, it just owes me. Thank you for planting them. I'm sorry, I'm in a mood. Homemade greeting card, you really have to pour your heart into it and make an effort. That's the point. Women recognize the effort. It's easy to walk over to Walgreens. And yes, Corey the Yard Boy, my wife and I have done the same thing. You just walk into Walgreens and you find the card that you would have bought for your loved one. You read it to her, you put it back on the shelf, and then you walk out and you save yourself $20. And yes, Bella's seen the inside of he did not see the inside of my drawers. He saw the inside of my office. That's a different thing. All right, so that is up and available for you. If anybody that wants me to write them a quick poem for Valentine's Day, I'm happy to do that for you fellas who are a little less creative. Okay, so Nikki Haley has decided to become the first Trump challenger in the 2024 GOP political campaign, giving #NeverCNN plenty to discuss. Who is she to challenge Trump? The awful Trump. Trump is awful. We want Trump. We don't want any. Just pay no attention to this nonsense. I do have a question. Do you think Nikki Haley is setting herself up as a challenger only to set herself up as a VP candidate? Do you think Trump's in on this? Is it possible that Trump's in on this? It's just a question. I don't know that. I mean, I appreciate Nikki Haley. I appreciate what she's done for South Carolina. I appreciate what she did as an ambassador of the United Nations. I appreciate her leadership and her conservative nature. And she is a rock star within the Republican Party. But I don't think Nikki Haley truly has a lane here to outflank Trump. Do you? And so what's the play? It all depends on how Trump reacts to it. And I've not looked at my Truth Social this morning, so I don't know. Maybe Donald Trump has already reacted. Typically, I don't have to look at my Truth Social when Donald Trump reacts about things because CNN is obsessing over Truth Social in a manner which makes it easy. You know, you just wait for CNN to tell you what Donald Trump has said, And there you go. So far, let's see. Donald Trump tweeted something on Truth Social about Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's so lucky he had Donald Trump. I taught him how to win, even though he didn't do much with it. His biggest victory was getting on the Fox board. Fox is down massively this year. Nothing about Nikki Haley that I can see. He's talking about documents and the Gestapo and the raid of Mar-a-Lago earlier today. 6 hours ago this morning sometime, he's talking about doing great in poll numbers, et cetera, et cetera. The fact that Donald Trump has not reacted to Nikki Haley getting into the race makes me believe that perhaps he was aware or was made aware that she was getting into the race. And it's possible that she's getting into the race to provide a flank for Trump, only to slide into the VP slot if he should get the nomination. What do you think? 615-737-9986 plus Pete Buttigieg. So yesterday we trashed Buttigieg, and rightly so. He's been a horrible transportation secretary. And I said correctly that the only reason that Pete Buttigieg is transportation secretary, his central qualification is that he was openly gay or is openly gay, which I don't care about. I don't care if you're gay, straight, or whatever. I don't wear sexuality on my sleeve to the point that it dictates every daily activity that I do. And hopefully you're in a place where you don't do that either. That said, Pete Buttigieg was a mayor of a nowhere town in Indiana, South Bend. Did not apparently do a very good job of that. But because he was openly gay as mayor, he got a lot of political attention as a result, which he parlayed into a run for president. And he failed miserably at that run for president. That said, Joe Biden, who won the presidency, is woke to the point that he wants to fill all of these categories and all of these political positions with people who have never been there before. A gay person this, and a bisexual person that, and a transgender person that, and a African-American transgender person here. And you got to fit all of these diversity slots. You got to check these boxes, man. Pete Buttigieg was not qualified to be transportation secretary for any reason. And he's only there for one reason. And he's done a horrible job. Through COVID, his absence during a lot of COVID, because he was on quote-unquote paternity leave. And as we followed up on yesterday, even in the aftermath of COVID, it hasn't gotten better. As a matter of fact, it's gotten worse. Airliners almost hitting one another. I mean, ultimately, you're the Secretary of Transportation. You are responsible from a government standpoint in making sure that these things don't occur. You're responsible for making sure that while you cannot prevent every single train derailment, you're responsible for it when it happens. And instead, he's talking about racist construction in America. More coming up, 12:32, just getting underway. Fired up on this Tuesday edition. It is The Murphy Show. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Let's talk about that pain. Where's it originating from? You know, this is a question that you'll be asked when you sit down and visit one of the incredible team at the Dr. Gill Center. That's right. They have multiple chiropractors, all trained by Dr. Gill. He's imparted his impressive knowledge on these folks like Dr. Wendy, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V. They're all there waiting for you. Over 100 years collectively of experience waiting for you at the Dr. Gill Center. And they want to see you so badly, they've got a great special going on right now. For 2023, it's just $23. Examination, x-ray, or review of the findings. It's a limited offer. It won't last forever, but I want you to be a part of it. So make the call that so many others have made and get pain-free without the need for pills and without the need for surgery. Pain-free. Call right now at 615-882-4838. I did it, and I want you to do it. 882-4838 for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. All right, hit us up, 615-737-9986. If you'd like to call, you may do so. Don't do it now, though. We have a guest coming up on the Murphy Show hotline. You can super text us at any time you desire. That's the same number, 615-737-9986. You also have an avenue of success when it comes to communicating with the show via the various platforms that we have rolling on the Talk TV side of things. We've got YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch up and running as we speak. You'll see my ugly mug there, and you know you're in the right place. All right, we have a special guest on the hotline, as I mentioned, turning our attention to matters of the state, the General Assembly, of course, ongoing in its endeavors. And Jack Johnson is a very busy man. He's the Senate Majority Leader and obviously shepherding a lot of cats as we speak. And he joins us for a few moments to talk about some of the successes over the course of the General Assembly thus far. Hey, Jack, how are you?
I'm great, Matt. Great to be back with you.
It's always a pleasure, sir. I know you're busy. I appreciate your time as always, and had some success last night, at least for those of us who were supportive. Most of Tennessee, it's my opinion, supportive of SB 1, and it passed to the Senate. Talk to us about it.
It did, yeah. Very happy to get that very important legislation passed, Matt. It passed right along party lines, which was to be expected, 26-6. Obviously, the lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the Senate, is out. He is recuperating, by the way, very nicely. I spoke with him, and I know he would want me to share with your audience. Thank you for all the thoughts and prayers as he got a new pacemaker installed, and we look forward to having him back soon. But so we were down that one vote, but 26-6 on the Senate floor. And, you know, it's one of those issues. We've talked a lot about it. It's really hard to argue against this. We're not going to do permanent alterations to kids' bodies, before they turn 18. And so put a lot of thought into the presentation of the bill because I thought needed to correct a lot of misinformation. And by the way, anybody in your audience that would like to go watch it, my presentation of the bill is available on the streaming. It's archived if they want to go watch it. But very, very excited to get that one across the finish line.
And I watched yesterday, and I had a difficult time, and I'm not trying to be intentionally obtuse when I say this, Jack. I had a difficult time understanding the objections to the bill because it seems that they're trying to object broadly that this is an anti-transgender bill. When you guys supporting it, when you've been on our show, when we've tried to relate the description, when people ask us on the air, it is pretty straightforward what this bill is about. It's not about of-age transgender people whatsoever, correct?
Absolutely. You're 100% correct, Matt. And I made it a point to try to drive that point home last night on the floor. Is that, look, I said, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly how I said it, but I believe that every Tennessean has a right to live a life of purpose and dignity in a manner that they choose to live, as long as it's lawful. And if that means you want to remove body parts, if you want to identify as one sex or another, that is, you do you. And I support your right to do that. We just don't believe that a 13, 14, 15-year-old child has the mental capacity to make that decision and do something to their body that cannot be undone. And you're right, overwhelming support. I've seen polls, I don't make decisions based on polls, but 70, 80% of all voters in Tennessee support this legislation.
Well, it's a positive step forward. You expect fairly easy sailing in the House of Representatives as well?
I do. It is up. I can't remember. It's either this afternoon or tomorrow in another committee. Our process in the Senate is simpler. I had to go through 2 committees and then onto the floor. Leader Lamberth on SB 1, the bill we've been discussing, he's got more committee stops. So it takes a little bit longer in the House. But, yes, it is a freight train over there, has tremendous support, I think largely along party lines again. But he should have it to the floor within the next couple of weeks, and I expect it to pass overwhelmingly.
It's easy to define the obscene materials in front of children, and I don't know exactly how to say that without saying drag shows. I'm trying to avoid saying drag shows, but it's easy to put these two together because there are some touchstones that are similar, mainly in the opposition to them more than anything. But where are we on the legislation that would prevent the viewing of sexually explicit displays or shows with young people in-house? Where's that bill?
So I passed that one on the Senate floor on Thursday. And, again, straight party line vote. The House sponsor is Representative Chris Todd from West Tennessee, and similar to SB 1, he's got great support in the House on that one. A few more committee stops. Should have it to the House floor within the next couple of weeks. And something I've really tried in terms of the messaging, and I've done lots of interviews on both of these bills, but on Senate Bill 3, which is the explicit sexually graphic entertainment bill, I'm trying to point out to people, what does it say about – well, let me digress for a moment. In my presentation of that bill in committee and on the floor, I was intentional. I never uttered the words drag or show because you're right. I'm guilty. I've referred to it, the drag show bill. It got that moniker because it was brought to our attention because, yes, it was some people dressed in drag that were doing this type of entertainment. But our bill bans that entertainment for anyone. It doesn't matter how you're dressed or the manner in which you're doing this sexually explicit entertainment. It still bans it. And so I think it is very interesting that the opposition is coming from people either in the drag community or in the LGBTQ community in their opposition to a law that says you can't do anything that's sexually graphic. And that seems to be resonating to some degree because, again, I think 70, 80, maybe 85% of Tennesseans, maybe more than that, would say, no, you shouldn't simulate sex acts in front of kids, period, in a public space. And if you're going to do it in a private venue, that's fine. Just don't let kids in. It's not that complicated.
Well, it's almost amusing how the opposition crops up and claims that, hey, this isn't going on. Nobody's doing this from the perspective of drag performers, to which you say, obviously, I say, okay, then you don't have a problem with the bill. I mean, right?
Right. So. Let me tell you this, Matt. This drives the point home about how these things get mischaracterized. Literally, there was a gentleman who testified in opposition to that bill, the adult-themed entertainment bill, in committee. He came and testified because he owns businesses where he has drag performances. Now, he said in his testimony, he said, now my venues are all 21 and up, and no one does anything sexually explicit, but I'm opposed to this bill. and I'm up there scratching my head saying, this bill doesn't affect you.
Right.
On both counts. Number one, my bill is 18 and up, and you say you're 21 and up, and you don't do anything sexually explicit, but yet you're opposed to the bill. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, they're trying to. They're making up boogeymen. Apparently, I mean, if they've got nothing better to do than make up boogeymen, I think the listeners of Super Talk and the people of Tennessee see right through that. Well, congratulations on passing both of those pieces, and I'm certain that they'll get through the House and get signed by the governor as well. I want to ask you while I have you in the next few minutes, Jack, about the possibility of turning down federal education dollars. We had Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton on last week. And he was, quite animated about the possibility that exists that we could potentially in the state of Tennessee fully fund educational opportunities for our children in the state of Tennessee without needing to be dependent on what is ultimately borrowed federal money. I certainly appreciate the concept. I also understand how it's easily argued against because certain people would say, hey, you're leaving money on the table. That money's out there. Why would you just leave this money on the table? We could do other things with Tennessee cash. Where are you on this bill, and where's the Senate, in your opinion, on the possibility of saying no to federal money because of all of the strings that come with that?
Well, I am supportive of it conceptually, and I've said so on numerous occasions. But you're right. We have to think through the details because you're talking about roughly $1.8 billion that comes in various forms for public education in Tennessee. There have been other instances where people have talked about, well, you shouldn't have to take any money from the federal government for roads. Don't take any of their money because it also has strings attached to it. And as I explain to people, well, every time you go and fill up your car, you're paying, and I apologize, I don't know exactly, but it's whatever, 21 cents in federal gas tax, and then you're paying 23 cents or so, whatever it is, in state gas tax. So you're saying that every Tennessean who goes and fills up their car, they're paying that money, and then we don't want that money back to Tennessee. We don't want that to come back to help build our roads and take care of our roads. On the education front, it is different because I don't think that the U.S. Department of Education should exist. It came in the Carter administration. I don't think the federal government should have any involvement in education. That is 100% a state issue, and it should be. You can argue that interstate highways, keyword there, interstate, and that the United States Constitution does give the federal government purview over interstate commerce. So I can see a role that the federal government might play in some degree with regards to roads. There is no role for the federal government in education. So I'm supportive. We're going to have a conversation about how we backfill that because it would be a significant hit. That's a lot of money, $1.8 billion. Are we going to make that up with state tax dollars? But I think we've had it. And let me digress one more step. Under the Trump administration, we saw a lot of unraveling of these strings and these conditions that come with these federal dollars that flow back down into the state. And so I'm supportive of it. I want to be clear of that, but I'm also hopeful that we can get a good president when Biden leaves office, hopefully in a couple of years, who will continue to do what President Trump had started, and that is to unwind this, start to restore some of our 10th Amendment state sovereignty.
What's on the docket today, Jack?
Well, I've got a Commerce Committee coming up here in 15 minutes. I'm presenting some bills. Now that, and I know there's been a lot of conversation about these other two bills that we discussed, and there should be. They're very, very important bills. But we got some other big things on our docket. The governor has proposed sweeping tax cuts for our business community. We need to have some more conversations about that and what that's going to look like. We're already the least tax state in the nation. Certainly from an individual tax standpoint, we need to restructure some of our business taxes for businesses in the state of Tennessee. Obviously, the infrastructure bill, talking about choice lanes. So there's some big things that are coming up in the next few weeks, and I hope we get a chance to talk about them.
Jack, we will talk about them over the course of the next several weeks. You're always gracious with your time with Middle Tennessee. We appreciate that so much. Get back to work, and we'll talk to you again very soon, friend.
Okay, Matt. Thank you.
Take care. There's Jack Johnson spending some moments with us discussing the passage primarily. It's the adult entertainment or sexually explicit adult entertainment bill that happened earlier this week. And then just yesterday, the passage of the underage transgender mutilation bill that would prevent. And look, I understand that people get, upset about the use of the word mutilation. That's fine. I understand that that's loaded language. I mean, call it whatever you want. Bottom line is this: we should not perform procedures to alter the biology of young people under a certain age because they have gender dysphoria. That is my statement and belief. I don't deny that there's gender dysphoria. I don't know that most people do. These cases exist, but there is zero scientific data that indicates that individuals that go through these permanently altering surgeries or puberty blockers and whatnot come out better mentally stable, more mentally stable. And I understand that, look, I'm sensitive to all of this. I understand that with gender dysphoria comes a certain level of instability that might lead to someone wanting to commit suicide. You have to be sensitive over that. But there's zero that suggests that this prevents that. Nothing. They make it up. They use studies that are not based in science to make up the talking point that you have to do this. And it's, the language. These are life-saving procedures. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. 615-737-9986. Thanks again to Jack Johnson. Back with national news, including the promise to Buttigieg audio, plus the mystery objects. We are no closer than we were 24 hours ago to figuring out what the hell these things are. And once again, I ask the question. It's not oversimplifying the case. It is the central question. Why have we not seen photos? That's all to come on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about your weight. I know that's a personal subject. I understand that, but I'm here to tell you there are solutions that don't involve diets. I'm talking about LT360. I'm talking about Coach Scott, Coach Elizabeth, and the rest of the team. I'm talking about dinner and discussion with yours truly, Doc Underwood, and LT360 with Coach Scott Oatsfall. Let's discuss. So it takes much longer than 60 seconds to describe to you the differences with LT360 and some of these other weight loss plans. And really, I don't consider LT360 a weight loss plan. I consider LT360 a life plan, right? Because you get the right incomes, you get the right outcomes. That's what it's all about. It's dinner and discussion with yours truly, Matt Murphy, Coach Scott, Dr. Underwood, and the rest of the team. It is coming up on the 22nd of this month, less than 10 days away. Make the appointment now by going to LT360.com. LT360.com. We'll see you at the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce on the 22nd. All right, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. We're almost an hour down. One more to go. You can find us on a variety of platforms to include, obviously, the regular radio station, 99.7, all throughout the state of Tennessee and beyond. You can also find us on your streaming app and now on television. Believe it or not, they put this ugly face on TV. I can't imagine why, but they did. And you can find us on Super Talk WTN TV on 4 different platforms, I guess it is, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I mentioned that we're also up and running on Apple, and I may have misspoken, and I'm going to correct myself if that was the case. I'll find out later on today. I said yesterday that we were on, the full show was on the platform, and I may have been in error when I said that. So if that is the case, someone called me out on it on the super text line and said, hey, you said that the full 4 hours would be there, and I went, and it wasn't. So I'm going to find out what the real deal is. I may have gotten ahead of my skis on that comment. Okay? Okay. All right, when we return, the promised Pete Buttigieg and a continued analysis, no movement on anything involving these balloons. I'm telling you, my theory stands even after Conspiracy Monday. These are American balloons, and they're being used as a distraction to something. Maybe Ohio. I'll give you the latest on that as well. Stand by.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Inflation is cooling according to the latest Consumer Price Index. Inflation 6.4% in January compared to the same time last year. Americans are still paying more for consumer goods, but it could signal that the recent rate hikes by the Fed may be working to tame inflation further. But it may not be fast enough. ABC's Alexis Christoforous explains.
I don't think today's report deters the Fed from its focus, which is to still get inflation down to that target of 2% and most likely raising interest rates again by a quarter point at its March 22nd meeting. But remember, we get another employment report between now and then and another monthly inflation report. We'll get a better feel for where both those things are.
President Biden touting the economic recovery while speaking at the National Association of Counties today. He's also offering condolences on the latest mass shooting. Classes at Michigan State University are canceled for 2 days following last night's shooting that left 3 dead and 5 injured. Police have identified the gunman as Anthony McCrae. MSU Deputy Police Chief Chris Rosman says the gunman took his own life and there are still questions about motive.
We have absolutely no idea what the motive was at this point. We can confirm that the 43-year-old suspect had no affiliation to the university.
In Brussels, defense leaders met for NATO talks today on the military and so far for Ukraine, the aid given and the focus as Russia steps up attacks. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, in remarks, said the coalition has provided nearly $15 billion in aid since the invasion began nearly 1 year ago.
It isn't just our goal to provide equipment, it's to provide full and lasting capabilities. So today we'll continue talking about integrating and synchronizing our support so that Ukraine has combat-credible capabilities that matter and endure.
California's Powerball officials say they will announce the lone winner of the $2.04 billion jackpot from November this hour. You're listening to ABC News.
All right, friends, so it's a treacherous time when it comes to buying and selling your house. I say treacherous because interest rates are hovering a little higher than they've been historically over the last 10 or so years, although they've gone down. And Accurate Mortgage wants you to know that with home prices where they are, and they have gone down lately, you might have hit a honey spot for now for you to buy that house that you've been wanting to buy. If you're looking to get out of the house that you're currently in, maybe you're an empty nester or you're growing as a family, it might be time to do that because for the last 5 or 6 months, we've seen a lowered interest rate and the housing prices have gone down a bit too. Accurate Mortgage Group can also get you out of that higher interest consumer debt. Credit card rates are soaring. I mean, they're astronomical. Why wouldn't you sink that astronomical debt into your home and save money as a result? It's a great time to take advantage of recently reduced rates and save big on your total monthly payments, or you can get cash out that you need for home improvements. It's your choice. Ask them about the payment reduction plan when you call Joe, Mike, and the rest of the team at Accurate Mortgage. They're local, and I believe in supporting local business, and I believe what they're able to provide outside of some of these national companies. Call the local folks at Accurate Mortgage Group. The website is AccurateMTG.com. That's AccurateMTG.com. Accurate Mortgage Group, a division of Acopia LLC, an equal housing lender in MLS 4664. Hour number 2 starts right now. Matt Murphy Show. Hold on, frog in my throat. Wouldn't want to do that on you. It can come through the speakers, you know. It is 1:06, and we're happy to be with you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're obviously appreciative of that. We still have 3 mystery objects above the United States of America that were shot down, or North America, I should say, that were shot down, and no further information about them. It seems as if the Biden administration is hoping that they can play out the string and avoid any and all conversation about it whatsoever. At least that's what it seems to be. There's been so little press about this. The press seems loath to cover it. When they do cover it, they're asking obvious questions that have obvious answers and not getting down to the meat and potatoes of the matter, and that is this. Why are there no photos? Why are the American people not being made? Why are photos not being made available to the American people? They have them. They have them. Why aren't we seeing them? It's a simple question. In the meantime, story coming out today via Fox News about a pair of F-35 fighter jets that have intercepted a formation of Russian military planes that were flying near Polish airspace earlier this week. Yesterday, as a matter of fact. Happened yesterday. A then unknown aircraft approached the Polish NATO area of responsibility, and after identification, it turned out to be 3 aircraft, a couple of flankers, and the designations on the aircraft are here, but I'm not going to give them to you because there's just a bunch of series of numbers. The Dutch F-35s escorted the formation from a distance and handed over the escort to NATO partners. In other words, we are just steps away from war with Russia. And it almost seems like a proxy war with Russia right now. In the meantime, Chinese are flying spy balloons over Canada and the United States of America. We don't do anything about that for days. And then these 3 mystery objects appear as we discussed them yesterday. I had questions regarding what the hell's going on with this. Joe Biden has not spoken at all about it. Yet he made an appearance earlier today in Washington, D.C., discussing the 5-year anniversary of the Parkland shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School. Tragic as that shooting was, and sure, if Joe Biden chooses to reflect on that shooting at an event, I don't have a problem with that. Where is Joe Biden's public remarks about these mystery objects that we're defining as UFOs, because that's what they are? They are flying objects, and they have yet to be identified. Therefore, they are unidentified flying objects. Why in the world do we not have more information about these? I believe, and I said it yesterday on Conspiracy Monday, that it's because these things are a distraction. And this is where, over the next several days, we will either see by theory bear out or not. It is the administration's purpose to get our attention off the embarrassment that was their reaction to the Chinese spy balloon. It may be that Joe Biden is compromised to the point where he had to allow China to spy on the United States of America. Have you thought about that for a moment? Now, I understand that seems like a page out of a Hollywood script, but would you believe it? I would. I mean, what do we know? We know about Hunter Biden's entanglements with the Chinese. We know very well that Hunter Biden's uncle, Joe Biden's brother, was making money based on email information retrieved from Hunter Biden's laptop. We know that they were making money not just from Burisma and Ukraine and other nations, but from China. We know that Hunter Biden went with Joe Biden, who was on a diplomatic mission, reportedly, as vice president, that he flew with the man to China to engage in business dealings. We are told by Joe Biden that he didn't have a conversation with his son on that flight about any of those business dealings, which we now also know, thank you, Hunter Biden's laptop, complete and absolute lie, something that the media won't cover. Joe Biden stood before the American people and said, I've had zero conversations about Hunter or with Hunter about his business dealings. He doesn't know who his business dealings are with. He doesn't know who these people are. We now have on record that Joe Biden met with these people, that Joe Biden dined with these people, that Joe Biden, if you believe he is the, quote, big guy, was paid on numerous occasions by these people. Hunter at one point saying that half of his money had to go to the big guy. That's Joe. And I know that I nag on it, and I know on it. I cannot help it. If the mainstream media chooses to ignore this, if they have abdicated their responsibility as a credible journalistic operation, whether it be MSNBC or hashtag Never CNN or CBS, ABC, NBC, or any of the rest of the alphabet soups, or any of the rest of the so-called print propagandists, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globes, all of them. If they will not do their job, we have to fill that void somehow, and it merits reminding you of this. An inquisitive, investigative body that is being honest and earnest to get to the truth would look into this garbage, and they're not. However, let's suppose for a moment that Joe was compromised. I know for some of you, perhaps far-fetched. I guarantee you that every person that would suggest that it's far-fetched for me to suggest that Joe Biden was compromised believed for 2.5 years that Donald Trump was compromised with no evidence. And oh, by the way, turned out that wasn't true, but this could be. Now, I apply my general theory on this specific subject. And my general theory is this, that if Democrats and their sycophants and little minions in the mainstream media, if they're wagging their finger and screaming about someone else doing something loud enough, more often than not, it means that they're doing it themselves. You're colluding with the Russians, said Hillary Clinton in the midst of colluding with the Russians to get dirty dossiers on Donald Trump. Typically, the political left engages in activity whilst accusing their opposition of engaging in the same activity. Okay? And so it would stand to reason that while Democrats accuse someone like Donald Trump of having foreign entanglements, that they have foreign entanglements themselves. And here comes the Chinese spy balloon. And if you believe, like I do, that there have been financial entanglements at very least between Joe Biden and the Red Chinese, would it not then stand to reason that in an effort to prevent some of those entanglements from getting public, or to prevent more information coming out about Nord Stream 2, or to prevent, or I don't know, steal the news cycle while we anxiously anticipate Jeffrey Epstein's client list, or any number of conspiracies that we potentially went over yesterday with regard to why they would be doing this. But would it not make sense in an effort to cover these things up and steal the news cycle that you float a couple of harmless balloons on your own only to shoot them down? I do not believe that these flying objects were from a foreign country. I believe the United States of America put them up. I believe the same people that put them up for the purpose of shooting them down. And if that involves the United States military, so be it. We've done such in the past. Head fakes are not new in American politics. I wouldn't put anything past the people that are controlling Joe Biden. They have a dementia-addled robot serving as president of the United States right now, whom they prop up on a regular basis with whatever drug cocktail of the day to get him through his public appearances. You don't think they'd lie to the American people about shooting down a weather balloon? Come on. As Joe would say, come on, man. So I do believe that there are far more questions than answers on these mystery objects, and I think it remains to be seen. And we must continue to press on it while other news comes out. I get it. There's a lot of other news going on that deserves covering, but this deserves chewing on as much as we possibly can on a regular basis.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
I don't believe that's true, Mr. President. I don't even know that you know what that means. I do know this. We've yet to see a photo of any of these objects, and they have photos of every single one of them before they shot them down. I predict that they will never find them. They will claim in a statement sometime down the way that they were in far too remote of a location to find them. Oh, Lake Huron, it was at the bottom of the lake, and we couldn't do anything about that. And, this Alaskan wilderness, I mean, it's crazy how deep those woods go. And then we have the shooting on Michigan State's campus last night, and I want to get into that as well. I'm not going to fall into the trap of covering over the same old narratives that many in the mainstream media like to cover when something like this happens. 3 Michigan State University students were killed, 5 were injured. It was a shooting last night at 2 campus locations. The wounded students remain in critical condition, according to the university. The gunman, who had no affiliation with MSU, was identified as a 43-year-old who died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Search warrant executed at his home connected with the suspect. Authorities are still investigating a motive. They being the authorities, have offered the identities of at least one, if not 2, of the victims. Alexandria Verner was one of the 3 students killed last night, and she's being remembered appropriately as a kind soul and a kind person. Scant detail on motive right now, but I'm beginning to agree more and more, and I've long obsessed with the motives of some of these criminally minded individuals, but I'm beginning to believe more and more along the lines of thinking of Brink Fiddler, our good friend from Defense Systems, who reminds me that while that's an important piece of the puzzle ultimately to piece together the mosaic of every individual circumstance, and all of them are different in some form or fashion, it ultimately doesn't do anything with regard to tactics and how to prevent these types of mass shootings from coming up, and what to do, God forbid, you find yourself in the midst of one of them. The man's name, who will not be repeated by me, is known. Opened fire Monday evening, later found dead, as I mentioned. He was found by police. He had a note on his person in his pocket that indicated a threat to 2 Ewing public schools. The Michigan State University police confirmed that the individual had a note and that Ewing police said local schools no longer faced a threat. The rampage saw students jumping out of windows, running for their lives. The gunman went into a history class when, according to one eyewitness on the scene, all of a sudden I heard gunshots directly behind me. The shooter opened the back classroom door, started firing at my classmates in the back, wounding them. I smelled the gunpowder. I thought I was going to die. When the gunman stepped out of the classroom, leaving the door wide open, some students smashed a window and helped others jump out of the first-floor classroom. There was a boy on the other side of the window catching people who were jumping out of the window. He stood there and risked his life to catch other people, said an eyewitness. And good for him. It's amazing that more were not killed. It's a campus of about 50,000 students. MSU is a massive place. I've never been, but I've had friends who have gone to Michigan State, and they say that it's just an absolutely massive place. And so there you are. That's the latest on that. Pete Buttigieg is the Secretary of Transportation, and he's worried about the color of construction workers. We'll play that clip next and take your calls coming up. It's 120 615-737-9986. The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Efficient heating and cooling is on my mind. It is often on my mind this time of year, obviously, with the cool weather conditions, and then it warms up. You know, I actually, I have a heat pump, so, you know, it kind of fluctuates and varies, but many of you perhaps turn on the air conditioner when it gets up to 72, 73 degrees outside. Well, Jeff Eddy understands air conditioning. He understands heating unlike anyone that I've met in the Nashville area, and I encourage you to communicate with Jeff. Local company, believes in doing right by you. Efficient Heating and Cooling is a small company with big service and big results, and I trust Jeff Eddy. When he comes to my home, he's going to do the right thing, and I trust he'll do the same for you. And so when it comes to a maintenance call, it's time to get it done. $125 for that maintenance call. And by the way, never too early to think about March and April and scheduling that call for the summertime in your AC unit. And when it's time to replace Diamond Contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, give him a call today, 615-784-4424, 784-4424, efficienthvac.net. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and I host a little gathering until 3 o'clock every Monday through Friday. We call it the Matt Murphy Show, conveniently enough. You're invited to be a part of it. Mike has called in. I'll get to you momentarily. If you desire to do that, turn a monologue into a dialogue, 615-737-9986. That is also the Super Text line, where many of you are Super Texting. John, for example, loyal John. Matt, with no photos or videos of these flying objects, how do we know anything was actually shot down? Maybe hard to recover something that conveniently may not exist. Just wondering. John, I wouldn't put anything past him. And that's actually a pretty good theory. Although I saw last night where you're not hearing a lot about this. Apparently, one of our fighters missed. It was an F-16. It missed. How the hell do you miss a balloon? It's a balloon. He missed. I mean, look, I'm not taking random pot shots at the pilot, but I'm just saying. I've seen anywhere between $250,000 and $400,000 per missile. And he missed? That's an expensive miss, man. Come on. Speaking of missing, Pete Buttigieg misses the mark with regularity. Listen to good old Pete.
It's had its challenges.
Right.
I mean, if you look at what the American transportation systems have faced in the last 2 or 3 years, partly because of the pandemic, we've faced issues from container shipping to airline cancellations. Mm-hmm. Now we got balloons.
That's right.
Do y'all think that's funny? Ohio's burning. East Palestine might eventually cease to exist. We don't know. There are major questions about this health derailment, or rather this train derailment. There are major questions about health. And
it's had its challenges.
Right.
I mean, if you look at what the American transportation systems have faced in the last 2 or 3 years.
Oh, look at this.
Partly because...
Well, they faced you, sir, more than anything. You're the transportation secretary. I mean, it was a Democrat, maybe not a liberal Democrat, but it was a Democrat that said the buck stops here, right? Harry Truman. Harry Truman, I take responsibility. Not just for me, but for the individuals that I put in positions of authority to make decisions on my behalf. The buck stops here. From that, you got old Pete.
I mean, if you look at what the American transportation systems have faced in the last 2 or 3 years.
What you faced, sir? Oh, it's been hard. This has been harder than I thought.
Partly because of the pandemic. We've faced issues from container shipping to airline cancellations. Mm-hmm. Now we got balloons.
That's right.
Yuck. I mean, yeah, and the audience just laughs because it's funny. Oh, isn't that funny? In the meantime, we have an Ohio town that might be inhabitable who knows for how long. You've got dead fish in the streams and rivers. You've got contamination. Now, the train derailment, we don't know a lot about the nature of the derailment, except that we had toxic chemicals on the tracks, leaking, and some of these transports were, the material inside of them was pressurized to the point that it was getting overpressurized, and the fear was that it was going to explode anyway. And so they attempted to do a controlled explosion. Now, I'm not necessarily questioning that in the sense that I don't have enough information. I don't know enough. And this is rare, by the way, that a talk show host would tell you this, but I'll be honest with you as the day is long. I don't know enough about this to make a determination as to whether or not they had to blow it up. But I know this. Their initial reasoning behind blowing it up was we had to get the train tracks going again. And that it presented a real and present danger to the people around those tracks. Well, what about East Palestine, Ohio? And why wouldn't Pete Buttigieg speak on that? Instead, Pete's talking about this sort of thing.
To work with your contractors, to work with your community colleges on building a workforce that reflects the community. We have heard way too many stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, often a neighborhood of color, that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in the hard hats on that project looking like, doing the good-paying jobs, don't look like they came from anywhere near the neighborhood.
Right.
You can build community wealth that will help close wealth gaps in this country if we can tear down those barriers. But that happens at the delivery level.
What is he talking about? And there's the clip that I chose had music in the background. It's from Fox News, and I apologize for that. I don't think that music originally existed in the clip. I want to break this down, though. What is he suggesting there? What is his suggestion? He's saying that we have too many racial disparities in construction work. If I told you to describe the average construction worker that you saw on the job site in Nashville, Tennessee, who would you describe? What would that description be? Would it be a white guy? Would it be a brown guy? Would it be a black guy? Would it be a female? I mean, if Pete wants to play this game, let's play this game, Pete. What is your suggestion, Mayor Pete, that construction companies refuse to hire black people? Why are you insinuating that? That's his insinuation, folks. So he can't claim that black communities don't get the construction projects because that's laughable and untrue. Factually has no basis in reality. And so instead of talking about Ohio, by the way, at this event yesterday, while we were trashing him, and I didn't realize he was doing this event, at this event yesterday, he didn't mention Ohio. It's a major train disaster. Listen to what he says again.
On building a workforce that reflects the community. We have heard way too many stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, often a neighborhood of color, that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in the hard hats on that project looking like, doing the good-paying jobs, don't look like they came from anywhere near the neighborhood.
Right.
You can build community.
Wait, so what is the insinuation that he's making there? Let's just break this down. All right, so finally you have the construction job that's needed in the neighborhood comes to the neighborhood, and the people doing the job don't look like anybody in the neighborhood. Are you suggesting that the people that are doing the contracting on these jobs are racist? Are you suggesting that the people doing these construction jobs are bigots? Are you suggesting that they use illegal hiring practices when they process applications? Are you? What is your suggestion here, Pete? Because the construction contractors that I know, and I know a few of them, Pete, they're worried about good, hardworking employees doing an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And they could not give one damn about the color of their skin. More coming up, 132, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, folks, Tennessee Men's Clinic wants to help you guys out there that might feel a little sluggish. Perhaps you feel under the weather all the time, or you feel like you're under allergies all the time. It might be a testosterone issue. I'm telling you guys. Now, testosterone can help you feel sluggish. it can make you feel run down. You just don't want to have that get up and go that you used to have. And a lot of people say, well, that's just the way it goes, Murph. I'm getting in the mid-40s. I'm up to 50 now, and that's how it goes. No, it doesn't have to go that way. And it doesn't always manifest itself in the bedroom, but sometimes it does. And if that's the case, you need to go to see Tennessee Men's Clinic. Here's how it works. You go there, and for less than $100, they give you a complete blood sample. It includes a lot of different things, like a PSA test to check that prostate, but also they're going to check that testosterone level. And if you're low, they're going to get you back up to where you need to be. There's a lot of different options to do that. Call the Tennessee Men's Clinic. I've got the number for you, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com online. Here's that number, 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Do this today. It's Tennessee Men's Clinic. All right, as promised, I'll jump on the phones here. 137 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We got news coming up at the top of the hour with young Mack Morey back in the saddle. We'll deliver on that momentarily. You on the phones and you on the Super Text lines as well, 615-737-9986. So during an onstage discussion yesterday at the National Association of Counties Conference, Pete Buttigieg discussed topics like we just played for you, like racial disparity. And yes, as noted by one of the alert super texters, notice he says, oh, we hear stories in the past. What about today, bud? Just want to re-rack this real quick because I'm just fascinated by the lack
to work with your contractors, to work with your community colleges on building a workforce that reflects the community. We have heard way too many stories from generations past.
From generations past. Way too many stories from generations past. I mean, what's next, Mayor Pete? We've heard way too many stories from generations past about one group of people enslaving and not paying another group of people. Right here in this country. We get it, Pete. I'm not dismissing it, but that's not what you're here to talk about. You're here to talk about today. We're not here for a history lesson on racial disparity in the United States of America. That's well established. We have that. You're the transportation secretary in 2023. What are you going to do about the fact that we have airliners almost hitting one another on a regular basis under your watch? What are you going to do about the overruns on our ports? What are you going to do about the fact that you have a mushroom cloud over East Palestine, Ohio? You passed an infrastructure bill, and the infrastructure only seems to suck exponentially worse than it did before you passed it. Oh, by the way, much of that money wasn't for infrastructure to begin with. The East Palestine, Ohio community might have years of recovery due to the toxic chemicals that came out of that train, and you avoided the topic. Buttigieg went to Twitter to correct the record. I continue to be concerned about the impacts of the February 3rd train derailment in near East Palestine, Ohio, and the effects on families in the 10 days since their lives were upended through no fault of their own. It's important that families have access to useful and accurate information, Buttigieg tweeted. You stood on stage and talked about past generations' racial disparities regarding construction crews, and you wouldn't bother mentioning it, Pete? Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't exactly top of mind. You think? Oh, by the way, you're transportation secretary. Why are you talking about construction crews anyway? That's labor. On the super text line, 7802 says, well, Pete could be suggesting the people in that community are not willing to work. Maybe so. I mean, are you calling these folks lazy? Because it's one of two things, Pete. Either you're suggesting that construction companies are racist and they don't consider black applications. I mean, you say people of color. We know what you're talking about. We read through the lines, bud. I don't know why I want to call Pete Buttigieg bud, but I do. That's twice. So either it's that or they're not getting black applications. Which is it, Pete? The fact of the matter is, this is racially driven nonsense designed to divert our attention away from the real issues facing the United States of America. It is not up to the Secretary of Labor or the Secretary of Transportation to demand that black people apply for construction jobs. What we do expect is those construction companies do not weight applications based on the race of the individual applying. And no one has suggested that they do. Mike's in the borough, wants to talk balloons, and he's been holding for far too long. Mike, I thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, sir. Hey, Mike. Mike.
Hey, Matt. Sorry about that. Just wanted to tickle your ear for a second with some information. Did you know that the National Weather Service, in cooperation with NOAA, releases 2 weather balloons every single day, every day of the year? There's a possibility of around 90 to 100 weather balloons floating around the United States at any given time. Now, yesterday, one of the Biden administration's speakers said that, we adjusted our radar sensitivity to pick up on these small balloons. Now tell me, are they going to go around shooting down 100 weather balloons every single day?
I don't know. It's a good question, Mike. I don't know. Well, I don't know that they would admit what I don't know that they're going to admit what they shot down, one way or the other.
No, I agree. Yeah, and just for the record, I totally 100 agree with your conspiracy theory Mondays. So yeah, just wanted to just throw that out there. If they're going to talk about small weather balloons, there's about 100 of them floating around out there.
Well, they've made a lot of excuses, and thank you, Mike, for the call. It might be a weather balloon that they shot down. I've heard that potentially at least one of the shoot downs was a balloon from the National Weather Service, that they're flying all the time, as Mike indicated. I've also heard the excuse making on the part of John Kirby and others. Well, we weren't looking for these types of things until recently. What? Do you guys believe that? That's the latest excuse. John Kirby, the State Department, the Pentagon, the United States of America, the White House, all of these organizations, the government of the United States wants you to believe, the executive branch of government wants you to believe that we had the capability, but we chose not to monitor these types of balloon or floating phenomena. Now, in a less suspicious environment, I might be able to have a conversation about that. I mean, I guess I understand why you don't want NORAD hitting on every hot air balloon that goes up. Do I have any hot air balloon enthusiasts in the audience? And if so, do you have to fly with do you have to file anything with any aviation authority when you go up in a hot air balloon? I don't know the answer to that. If anyone does, let me know. Because I can understand why, if you're a government, the government doesn't need to necessarily monitor every hot air balloon that goes up, not from a national perspective. And so it's Kirby's excuse that, well, we weren't monitoring this type of thing at this level. We've now just turned up the volume or the gain on our radar technologies to the point that we're seeing this more now and shooting it down as we see it, by the way. I mean, as soon as we begin investigating some of these other issues, we get this distraction. 4534 says, I'm from the Nashville area. The population here is about 18% black. I bet the ratio is probably about right in terms of construction work. I don't disagree with that. 2471 says, how do they know the first balloon was a Chinese balloon? The one that they shot down, it had markings on. I mean, they say that it's a Chinese spy. Oh, well, the Chinese took credit for it, first and foremost. The Chinese said that's our property and we want it back. That's one thing. Secondarily, we had enough eyeballs on that thing. By the way, they didn't tell us about that one either. I mean, this was noted last night. I think it was the Hannity show, and I'll give credit where it's due on Fox News, and I'm forgetting who the guest was. It was not the federal government that initially told us about that Chinese spy balloon. It was two dudes in Montana that saw it, took pictures of it, put it up online, and then people started asking questions that made the government admit that there was a spy balloon up there. This was not anything they did or any information that they initially gave. Chris writes in, I'm from Albuquerque. They have a lot of hot air balloons. They also have to have a license to fly them. And yes, Chris says that you do have to fly, or you do have to have flight information filed. But then there's 63 or 6436 that says no, hot air balloon pilots do not need to file anything. All right, so I have conflicting information. 0164 did it have a made in China tag on it? Well, all of the spy equipment, I mean, where else would it have come from, do you think? I mean, what's the speculation? If we're speculating that the first balloon, I'm talking about the one with the big payload that they waited until it got over the coast of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to knock down, what is the suggestion there? That that's not actually from China either. I wouldn't put anything past these people. I think more likely it is the case that they shot these last 3 down as a result of their embarrassment about not shooting the first one down. Secondarily, I wouldn't put it past them that it was our balloons that we put up to shoot down so as to advance the narrative that Joe Biden is tough on this type of thing. In the meantime, I don't have a producer anymore. I don't know what happened there. Hey, I got a news guy, though. That's nice, but no producer. That's okay. I can do this on my own. No. Don't you go anywhere. Don't you do. We'll just leave that be. He'll be back at some point, I presume. You know, some point down the road. No, you're not on. You can't talk to me if you wanted to. I haven't got a chance to talk to Mack Morey since he went through his celebratory process for the big Super Bowl victory. You know, I would feel more compelled to talk about the Super Bowl victory with Mack if it was his first. I mean, it's not like he's some poor schlupp who's 49 years old, who's waited his entire life to celebrate a Super Bowl for his beloved team. Whether it be, I don't know, I'm going to pick a team out of the rat. Whether it be, I don't know, for the most part of his life, the Atlanta Falcons, or more recently, the Tennessee Titans. You know? Some people wait their entire lives to be disappointed again and again and again. They do. Others get 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. So I don't feel compelled. I mean, just like I didn't expect anybody to congratulate me on my beloved Georgia Bulldogs winning their 2nd national championship in 2 years. Now, you did, to Morey's credit. He was raised right, and I say that mainly because I know Mama Morey's listening, because she just super texted me. But he did, to his credit. But it's the first chance that we've had. Maybe we might have to have a Friday Mac Attack on Tuesday, just to discuss. I don't care about talking about the Super Bowl. I'm not going to talk about. Look, there are negative calls every time a game is played. I understand that happened at a particular period in time where everyone's disappointed. That's the way that it happened. But I don't think that necessarily affected the outcome of the game. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to go there. But I am curious to talk to Mack Morey. Maybe we'll do that in a couple of minutes. All right, it's 1:51. Now I'm getting a little concerned. Super Talk 99.7 WT, and I'll just keep going. Matt Murphy writes 3277. A naked American man stole my balloons. I had this epiphany. So, has anyone seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind? How long has it been since you've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind? So, I thought I remembered this correctly. And you Steven Spielberg aficionados in the audience, y'all tell me. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I got squirreled. You tell me. What was the excuse? In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there's all of this weird extraterrestrial stuff going on with balloons or whatever, or, electronic equipment going flibberty-gibbet. And eventually they realized that the aliens were providing them with coordinates. Y'all remember this? Richard Dreyfuss was in it. That's really the only actor I can remember that was in the film that I can name. I know was Gerard Depardieu wasn't in Close Encounters. Was he? Hey, Bell's back. I was worried about you for a minute. I was concerned. Yeah, that's what I was concerned about. The military and the United States government, they forced an evacuation around Devil's Tower. What was the excuse? I'll leave it up there. The super texters can answer the question, or you telephone callers can answer the question. 153 on Super Talk 99.7 WT. All right, friends, so let's talk about your safety when it comes to your valuables, your possessions, and your family. Oftentimes, you protect yourself with guns. The Second Amendment guarantees you that right to protect yourself, to keep and to bear. But how do you keep and bear inside of your home? If you're not doing it with a safe from the Safe House, you're doing it wrong. I had a great opportunity to have late breakfast, early lunch with Mark today at the Safe House. And he was talking about how, and we were just discussing, I said, it's all you do. I mean, you, for 30 years, have specialized in this and this alone. Don't go to the folks that have 3 safes in the corner, okay? Because they bought those safes some years ago. They've got a nice layer of dust on top of them. They probably can't find the quote-unquote manual. They wouldn't know the combination if it hit them in the head. What are you doing? You need to go to somebody that does this for a living. And Mark and his team, that's what they do for a living. They sell you high-quality safes from brand names that you know, like Browning, like Fort Knox, like Liberty, and so many others. You can see the incredible selection, a selection that you will not see in the Southeast except at Nashville Safe House, right there at the Safe House. Now, you go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com. You can see that there, or I encourage you to go down and visit it yourself on 4th Avenue South. Do not go to some fly-by-night, hey, we also sell safes included in everything else that we sell. They're not the real experts. The only expert that I would ever recommend is right there on 4th Avenue South, and it's the Safe House.
It is 2 o'clock. I'm Mack Morey with your top stories. Right now, 67 degrees, a little cloudy today. The clouds will stay there. We're expecting some storms and showers to come in tonight. And then wind advisory in effect starting at 3 p.m. today. Could see gusts of up to 40 miles an hour, and that'll last through the night. And the storms and showers shouldn't be anything threatening or severe, really just the wind to go along with that rain. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away. Michigan State University reeling from last night's mass shooting in which police say a 43-year-old man not connected to the school shot and killed 3 students and wounded 5 others. Karen Travers has the reaction from President Biden.
President Biden said in a statement he and the First Lady are praying for the 3 students killed and 5 students fighting for their lives after Monday night's shooting on the campus of Michigan State University. The president said the fact that the shooting happened the night before the 5th anniversary of the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, quote, should cause every American to exclaim enough and demand Congress take action. He went on to say Congress must enact what he called common sense gun law reforms, including background checks on all gun sales, closing loopholes in the nation's background check system, and banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
In Tennessee, state lawmakers are debating moving the state closer to true constitutional carry for firearms. But John Harris of the Tennessee Firearms Association tells News Channel 5 they're not going far enough because police can still stop you, detain you, and question you even if you're acting lawfully and have a permit.
What do they mean when they say full constitutional carry? We define that as a structure in which it's simply not a crime for someone to carry a firearm, just like it's not a crime to carry a pocket knife.
3 bills that are under debate right now lower the permitless carry age from 21 to 18, expands permitless carry to shotguns and rifles, and allows enhanced permit holders to take firearms in places where they're listed as prohibited. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mack Morey, WTN News.
Because it's a matter of financial responsibility and fiduciary duty, the government requires me to tell you that Paul Winkler pays me to talk good about him on a day-to-day basis. But I would talk good about Paul Winkler even if he didn't pay me, and he would be my go-to financial advisor. I would be a client of Paul Winkler's regardless of whether or not I talked about him on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's the deal, folks. I learned about Paul's message from Paul, and you can too. 10 separate offices to choose from. Paul wants to sit down with you, or one of his qualified, certified financial planners want to sit down with you and walk through your individual needs, where you are on your nest egg building, what you want to accomplish out of that said building, and how to get to where you want to be. And let me tell you, folks, Paul is doing it the right way. The investment education that he gives is evidence-backed. It's evidence-based. It's backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. You know me, and I would not steer you the wrong direction if I didn't believe in the way that Paul does his business. PaulWinkler.com is the website to find out more. PaulWinkler.com, or give him a call for a free 15-minute telephone conversation. 615-851-1950. 851-1950. Or once again, PaulWinkler.com. Tell him Matt Murphy sent you to Paul Winkler. All right, hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show in progress, 2:07. Glad to have you with us. Lots going on. Breaking news coming out that we want to tell you about of a national importance. By the way, the answer to the question that I asked, and several of you have gotten right around there, there was a train wreck involving toxic chemicals. Anthrax was mentioned. But I asked the question in the last hour, close encounters of the third kind. And I looked this up to remember it for myself. Close encounters of the third kind, what was, you had all of this UFO type activity going on. And we have UFO activity going on. In as much as you have unidentified flying objects that the federal government is claiming that they're shooting down. I don't know if they've shot them down or not. But you have all of this activity going on regarding UFOs. And then, and we also simultaneously have this Ohio issue involving a train derailment. From the synopsis of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, once the scientists, they're broadcasting the bum, 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 bum. If you've never seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, do yourself a favor and watch this movie. It is a well-done film. It's Steven Spielberg has a lot of great movies, so I'm not going to say it's one of his best, but it's one of his early works, and it was one of his passions early on. He was passionate about this film prior to making Jaws, and I think this film came out the year after Jaws, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so the scientists are broadcasting out into the atmosphere, burm, 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 which is a musical phrase, if you will, that they got from the aliens. Well, in response, they're getting what they think is a meaningless series of numbers, 104, 44, 30, 40, 36, 10, repeated over and over again until one of the scientists realized those are geographical coordinates which point to Devil's Tower in Wyoming. And so the U.S. military converge on Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Well, the U.S. Army has to evacuate the area, and so they plant false reports in the media that a train wreck has spilled anthrax, a toxic gas, all while preparing a secret landing zone for UFOs and their occupants. I'm not suggesting that we're about to be visited by UFOs at all. I'm not suggesting it, but I'm not suggesting it. I wouldn't do that unless it was Conspiracy Theory Monday. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number if you'd like to be a part of the show. In the meantime, here's a blast from the past. Last year, when President Joe Biden addressed the National Association of Counties, he had this to say.
Not of the same persuasion as I was politically one night. And I said, well, I'll get him in the morning. She said, I want it removed now. I pay your salary. So I went over. I picked it up. She said, I want it out of my front yard. I put it on her doorstep.
That was Joe Biden telling a story about when he was a local politician. He must have been like 14 because he became a senator sometime in his 20s. He has sucked from the public teat, if you will, all of his adult life, telling a story about a woman complaining about a dead dog in her yard, and so he threw it on her porch. That was last year. And now here's this year.
Maricopa County in Arizona, we helped build a new bridge over the Holly River. Look, in Washoe County in Nevada, we're spending $89 billion to add several lanes to US 395.
Is he reading this speech for the first time? I mean, I know he didn't write it. He does. This was today. It was about an hour ago. Speaking before the National Association of Counties. I don't do this to be mean. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm telling you this because it's the truth. What you're about to hear, this is the best that Joe Biden is going to be today. They set him up. They set his drug regimen up so that he's at his best when he delivers speeches like this.
Maricopa County in Arizona, we helped build a new bridge over the Holly River. Look, in Washoe County in Nevada, we're spending $89 billion to add several lanes to US 395.
Yeah, no clue what he's talking about there. Here's a little more of Joe Biden talking about inflation.
Today's report on inflation shows the good news is that inflation in America is continuing to come down.
By the way, that is just functionally not true. He reports bad news as good news. What is up is down. We are living through 1984. Bell probably did not notice when he visited my office, but I have a couple of items on my desk. I have a book written by the Dalai Lama, which is called The Art of Happiness. I have a book called The Art of War by, what's the guy's name? Xu Shi or Shi Shu or whatever the Chinese philosopher was. So you've got The Art of Happiness, The Art of War. And the third book that's on my desk right now in my home office is a compilation of George Orwell's Animal Farm in 1984. And the reason that book is there, because I recently picked up 1984 again, had not read it in a long time, and I reread it. And we're living through it. If you want up to be down, just say up is down long enough and loud enough, and it becomes it. If you have enough people that are dunderheads in your population. And those that call you out on them, or those that call you out on it, arrest them. So inflation isn't up, it's down.
Today's report on inflation shows the good news is that inflation in America is continuing to come down. It's fallen 7 straight months. There's more to go. Food prices at the grocery store are coming down. Gas prices are down $1.60 since their peak. Real wages for working Americans are up over the last several months. The living, welcome breathing room. Melissa, my dad used to say, all I'm looking for, Joey, is just a little breathing room at the end of the month.
Okay, so I don't believe his father ever said that. I don't believe that anything Joe Biden says that his father said, he actually said. I don't really believe a lot that Joe Biden says, period. I don't understand most of it. Once again, just for the purposes of illustration, this is the best this man, the president of the United States, gets today.
$1.60 since their peak. Real wages for working Americans are up over the last several months. The living, welcome breathing room. Melissa, my dad used to say, all I'm looking.
I got $50 if you can tell me what he just said. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then he talks about finishing the
Today's data reinforces what we have made historic progress, and we're on the right track. And now we need to finish the job.
Now we need to finish the job, indicating that maybe, Joe's thinking about running for re-election. He also bragged about this, too.
And now we're doing all this and so much more while cutting the deficit more than $1.7 trillion in 2 years, the largest deficit reduction in a...
He's including the money that was appropriated for COVID in that assessment. It's such an absolute lie. I'm tired of this guy. He's ticking me off. Let's talk to you. Patrick is in Clarksville to talk about train derailments. Hey, Patrick, how are you?
I'm well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I used to work on train derailments, and I can tell you that their primary function and purpose is to get that line open as quickly as possible. However, I also currently work in environmental emergency response, industrial cleanup, and I would be willing to guess that the reason they did those controlled releases is because to not do them would likely cause more damage because we don't know what the chemicals were and what the mixtures could cause, i.e. poison gas, neurotoxins, that kind of thing.
So the primary goal is to get the train tracks back up and running.
For the railroads, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a harsh reality, but that's just the way they operate,
right.
Unfortunately.
You're not saying that in terms of supporting the concept. You're just stating it as a fact.
No, it is a fact.
Right.
I've been a part of that process.
And it would take local, state, and national politicians to intervene if they believed that the train folks were putting their interest ahead of the interest of a local community such as East Palestine, would it not?
That I don't have an answer for. But what I will say is, as far as those chemicals go, had one of them exploded, what one may have caused a different and more violent reaction with another chemical, which would have caused another reaction with another chemical. They had a similar situation. I think it was in either Waverly or Dixon, probably about 20 years ago, and it wiped out a good portion of the town.
Well, no, I'm not. I missed. If your point is that it is the design and desire of the individuals operating the train to clean up as swiftly as possible, as safely as possible, and get the train back operational. Correct?
Yes.
Well, that's absolutely correct. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I don't fault the train operators from doing what they do, and that is trying to get the train back operational. I don't even fault, because I don't have enough information here, Patrick. Maybe you have some additional information to add to what you've just told us, but I don't fault them for blowing it up if that was the necessary thing to do. I just don't see anyone stepping in initially in the aftermath of the derailment and acting in the interest of East Palestine. That city might might cease to exist because of this.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with you. My guess is the EPA should be stepping in and look up. It's called, I can think of the acronym, but I can't think of the actual what it means. It's called RCRA. It's basically it's like a super fund to help clean up sites like that. The federal government steps in, dumps a lot of money into it, and then cleans it up.
Well, we had another one. Did you see this one outside of Houston?
I believe I did hear about that. Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. And Patrick, thank you for the information. Thank you for the call. And I'm going to lean on your expertise with regard to why they would do certain things to blow this up. I get that. You know, sometimes it's important to get into a forested area and engage in a controlled burn, so you burn all the underbrush out to protect the larger trees from an uncontrolled fire that could destroy everything. So it's the same kind of concept. I get that. What I don't get is, where were the state authorities? Where were the local authorities? Where were the voices for the town of East Palestine? I've also heard at Palestine. I heard Dan Mandis doing this morning. And so if you believe it's the other one, just pretend that that's what I'm saying. Okay? I don't want to get stuck on the pronunciation of the town. But now, while Pete Buttigieg continues to discuss racial disparity amongst construction crews from days of yore. We've got another one yesterday. A deadly train derailment near Houston, Texas. 16 rail cars carrying hazardous materials crashed, prompting Union Pacific to say that they were monitoring the situation and monitoring air quality at the site of the crash, according to the local police departments there. And thanks to Pamela Furr for the heads up on that. So while our transportation infrastructure crumbles beneath us before our very eyes, while we have train derailment after train derailment, airliners almost hitting one another, air traffic canceled on a regular basis, and Pete Buttigieg is worried about the way that construction crews looked 40 years ago. I mean, with his lack of leadership, is there any wonder? It's 2:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When we come back, Karine Jean-Pierre's back in yellow at the microphone. We'll play you some selected bits next. Coming up presently, news. 225 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. Mack Morey back there somewhere in the newsroom. Bell K in the control area, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible. We appreciate you being along for the ride, whether you're listening on air or perhaps you're watching on a variety of different platforms, to include Supertalk TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Chuck Schumer was asked the question that a lot of Americans are scratching their heads about today. Why isn't the president of the United States talking about this? Do you think that Americans have a lot of we got questions about the flying objects. Do you think,
You said you still have some questions about the flying objects. I think Americans have a lot of questions about the flying objects. Do you think the president should address the nation on this?
Well, that'll be up to him.
That'll be up to him. Well, of course it's up to him, you dunderhead. She asked you, do you? That wears me out. Democrats get away with this, too. Liberal reporters play a game of gotcha with the Republicans, right? Every Republican has to answer to anything any other Republican says that might be out of bounds. Remember when Donald Trump was president? I do. I'm Elephantine. I don't forget these things. So Donald Trump's president of the United States. Donald Trump says something that's, I don't know, sounds a little crazy or whatever. And every Republican in America has to now answer to it. Do you denounce the statement that Donald Trump made about yada, 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 whatever? Every Republican that is on every network, any network in America, has to answer to it. Even if they have, whether they have anything to do with it or not. And Democrats get away with this nonsense. But, well, do you think the president should address the nation? Well, that's up to him. No, well, what do you think? Well, Karine Jean-Pierre speaks for the president. And she spoke today before the assembled press.
Numbers came out today that show a monthly decline in real wages as well as an annual decline in real wages. Administration officials have said growing real wages is an important marker for the economy. How do you view the setback in today's numbers?
So, a couple of things. I do want to say that what we have said many times is that we believe that the president's economic plan is indeed working, and it's giving people a little breathing room. You heard me say this at the top, how we have seen, how we have seen.
Wait, let me ask you a question. What do you think the president's plan is? I've heard this for the last, I do this for a living. Every day I watch as Karine Jean-Pierre flips through her notebook. She wears her monochromatic tops. And she comes out on stage and she tells us that the economic plan that the president has devised is working. What is his economic plan? Whatever it is, Karine Jean-Pierre believes he deserves a lot of credit.
If you look at the last 2 years, this is a president that deserves a lot of credit. We've gotten a lot of things done.
None of them good for the American people, but a lot of things done. I mean, we got the Inflation Reduction Act done, which was basically a climate change action clothed in words like inflation reduction. It does absolutely nothing to reduce inflation. In fact, functionally, it can't reduce inflation because we're infusing tremendous amounts of borrowed money into an economy that's already overinflated. What else have they gotten done? They overspent during COVID. What else? Well, we got our infrastructure plan done, Matt. How's that working for us? They spent $780 billion on quote-unquote infrastructure, and we have train derailments, airliners almost hitting one another. It's laughable. But Karine Jean-Pierre reminds you.
If you look at the last 2 years, this is a president that deserves a lot of credit.
I am certain that he does, and I'm certain he's getting credit. I'm certain that Russia gives him credit, and China gives him credit, and North Korea gives him credit. And illegal aliens from all over the world give him credit. I bet that Mexico and Guatemala and some of these other southern countries in South America and Central America that don't want the riffraff that floats up here, they're giving him a tremendous amount of credit. Who else? Who else? Give me credit. I'm going to the news on time. It's 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
2:30, I'm Mack Morey with your top story. 67 degrees and a little cloudy in Middle Tennessee today. It's going to stay that way. Showers and thunderstorms will come in later tonight, as will the wind. A wind advisory in effect for all of Middle Tennessee. Could see gusts of up to 45 miles an hour, consistent winds of 20 to 30. And really, these are just straight line winds, and they could cause some damage to anything outside. So if you've got some stuff on your porch, maybe you want to take it off before tonight hits. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away. China says the U.S. is engaging in the same spy balloon program that it's saying China's been running for years. Here's more from Britt Clinette in Hong Kong.
China today continuing to accuse the US of sending at least 10 balloons into Chinese airspace without offering details. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said that specifically since May of last year, the US flew the balloons over China and other countries and said the US needs to make a thorough investigation into the matter and give China an explanation for this. When asked for more information, Wang once again said that questions should be directed to the American side.
U.S. officials are denying flying any surveillance balloons in Chinese airspaces. And in Tennessee, there's a new way to handle people who overdose. It's being debated right now in the legislature.
Right now, if someone calls 911 for overdosing, that person doesn't have to worry about being prosecuted as long as it's the first time. Now a bill has been filed that would grant that immunity anytime someone overdoses and calls for help, no matter how many times they've needed it. So it takes away the fear of legal consequences, which might otherwise lead to death. News Channel 5 says the most recent data from the Department of Health shows more than 3,800 people died of overdoses statewide in 2021. And in 2020, more than 7,000 people were hospitalized after a non-fatal overdose. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mack Morey, WTN News.
So if you find that you are a decision maker when it comes to a school or a place of business or a church, I encourage you to contact my friend Brink Fiddler of Defense Systems. Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based in Middle Tennessee. I believe in the way that they do their business. I believe in Brink Fiddler. I believe in the information that he imparts to your staff. I was a part of a group at Cumulus Nashville that went through the training. I was so impressed by the training, I'm going to Glock Store Nashville on the 24th and 25th. I'm taking Friday the 24th off because it is an all-day event. And on the 24th and the 25th, I'm going to be a part of TECC training at Glock Store Nashville. Now, if you go to don'tbleedout.com, you can find out more information on that, and I encourage you to do so. For more information on active shooter response training, workplace violence prevention, site surveys, threat assessment, security improvement consultation, all of these things can be found at defensesystems.com. That's defensesystems.com. 615-236-6484. 236-6484. Hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained with Defense Systems.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP and the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
We appreciate you consuming the Matt Murphy Show and more broadly, Super Talk 99.7 WTN in any manner of your choosing, whether it's on air, perhaps you're joining us on a podcast. You can find those at 997WTN.com. Also prepared by Apple now. I thought it was the entire show, but I'm being told differently, so I'm going to figure all of that out. I'll have that information tomorrow or on Super Talk TV. And you can see the flowing locks of the one and only Mack Morey right now from the Super Talk 99.7 WTN newsroom as Mack Morey prepares to regale me of his activities Sunday night into Monday morning. Hello, Morey. How are you?
Hello.
It is our first opportunity. Of course, I've listened to the news, and I've heard you all day today. You were off yesterday. It's our first chance to talk, and it's my first opportunity to publicly congratulate you. Trust me when I tell you, when you're the fan of a team and your team ascends to the pinnacle of the pinnacles, the apex of the apexes, it's a nice feeling. You feel a part of the team, don't you?
So good, yes.
It's like you were on the sidelines, brother.
Yes, man. 21 weeks, you watch every Sunday, your family gathers together, and you just hope, hey, maybe in February we'll have a shot. Maybe in January we'll be there.
Uh-huh.
And it works, man. Sometimes it happens. For the lucky ones, it happens.
Oh, my goodness.
And for me, I'm extra lucky. You're right. 2 in 4 years. It's rare.
That's pretty sweet. That's
man,
pretty sweet.
It feels awesome.
Pales in comparison to back-to-back. But we're talking college. We're talking pro, not college. No, we won't even go there. So what was the just talk to me. PG-13. You can even R-rated if you want. I mean, what was the world like for you on Sunday night?
Just elation. I was actually watching with a good friend of mine. I was watching with my family, and a good friend was there, and he's actually a huge Eagles fan. So we kind of had to say, hey, love you, man. Sorry about that unfortunate call. He said, you know what? All good. Congrats. I'm a little sad. I'm going to leave. And they said, okay, I'll see you later.
All right, stop right there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those calls that at any other point in any other football game, you don't really think that much about it.
No.
But it's the Super Bowl. Maybe it's as consequential or talked about in a championship game or another playoff game. But this is one of those calls that legit could have gone either way. I understand the concept that you just leave it be. But it was also, arguably holding. I mean, you're right. So, I mean, I get it. So, but I don't pretend that one thing develops into the totality of the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
Absent a final kick. I mean, that's why the kickers, the pressure can get on them so much because they can determine completely the outcome of the game. But
100%.
Yeah, but no, congratulations, man. It was so good. So you had an Eagles fan watching with you.
Yeah, Eagles fan. Yep. And we were pretty cordial throughout the whole thing. We kind of prepared. We took a celebratory, a drink going into the fourth quarter together and said, hey, whatever happens in these next 15 minutes, let's go, man. Here we go.
And I bet your Eagles fan friend was feeling pretty good at halftime.
Oh, he was feeling great.
You know, you got my homie in there.
Yeah.
He's dragging himself into the locker.
Wincing. Yeah.
One leg. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sure he's feeling pretty good. I had no doubt that the Kansas City Chiefs could come back. And I've not talked about this Super Bowl until I had an opportunity to talk about it with you. Because I didn't want to talk about it with anybody else.
Oh, I'm excited about that. That makes me feel special. Well, it was a really good one. And you know what? That call, it stinks there at the end. I wish it wouldn't have been called. Even as a Chiefs fan, I don't want to win that way. But you said it was a hold. You said, kind of looked like a hold. I think it was a textbook hold. Should it have been called? Probably not. But that happens. Chiefs were down 10 points headed into halftime. They had less than half of the amount of plays ran in total on offense. They only had the ball for 8 minutes total in the first half. They scored on every drive in the second half, the Chiefs did. I mean, the Eagles had time and time again the chances. They had the advantage, and they let the Chiefs not crawl. I mean, just rocket back in the game.
If you're like me, people asked me if I was disappointed in the Bulldogs or in the game. Bulldogs versus TCU. And I said, absolutely not. I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
So if you're like me, I mean, I want to see destruction. It eases my troubled mind. I don't want to see Georgia, Ohio State. So as a Chiefs fan, I don't know how you reacted. But let me tell you, as a neutral fan, and I kind of remain neutral. I didn't know where I was going to go with it.
Yeah.
The two people that I was watching with became Eagles fans. That would be Belle Kay and my wife.
Nice, Belle.
I mean, they huge Eagles fans. So I, by default, started rooting for the Chiefs.
Of course.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, my boy's not here to defend himself. I mean, somebody has to root for the red and gold. Is it red and gold?
Yes.
Somebody's got to root for the red and gold in the house. So I kind of by default. Plus, they were down by 10, so it made it easier to root for the comeback.
Of course.
Let me tell you, as a non-affiliated fan, what a great game.
Amazing game. Seriously.
I mean, come on. It's 35-35. What, 2 minutes left in the game?
Yeah. Blow for blow.
Could not ask for more. And the effort on the part of the Eagles, congratulations to them. And I think today, though, Mack Morey, you should put to bed this nonsense apologizing for the holding call. Here's what you say to any haters that are going to come at you with the holding call. You say to them, no, it wasn't holding. The refs were in the bag for the Chiefs, and we're Super Bowl champions.
Let's go.
We had it from the beginning. We paid them off before the game started, joking. That's why we were down by 10 at halftime. Don't let the haters get you. Now say, yeah, it wasn't holding. It was a blown call, whatever. No matter. Well, what does it make you feel like? It makes me feel like Super Bowl champions.
Yeah. 2 times.
Exactly.
I'll be stubbing my toe on that Lombardi trophy the whole year. I don't care.
Was it, wasn't it E? It was either E or Bell. It was E. No, wait, I think it was Bell. Did you ask if there's one trophy? No, it was E. Was it you? Oh, okay. Which I guess is understandable.
Oh,
it wasn't. Yeah, right. Yeah, we were talking about that. No, there's the Chiefs will keep that trophy. There's only one per year, though, right? To your understanding, Mac?
Yes.
They don't make duplicates to have in different areas or whatever.
No. It's extremely
because I think like the Heisman Trophy, they make 2.
Yep.
They make one for the school and one for the player, if I'm not mistaken.
Pretty sure. They may even
in some sports, there's only the one thing. I mean, like Stanley Cup, for example.
Exactly. That's
it.
the one, and it passes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, British Open. If you win the British Open, there's one claret jug. And God knows what has gone into that jug. I wouldn't drink out of the jug on a bet.
No way.
You know somebody's peed in that jug. You know somebody has. At some point or another, you know that it's happened. But the Super Bowl trophy, that goes to the team. Well, congratulations to you and your squad. I mean, that merited a day off, I suppose.
Yeah, it was good to just kind of bask in glory and sit there and go, wow, I mean, my quarterback's only – it was one of those things, too, where, the L.A. Rams won 2 years ago, Matt, and it's like, wow, they put – all their money into that. They hired all of these free agents. They went and paid Matthew Stafford, who's 33 or 34, and that was his kind of last run at it. And now they're going to be pretty crappy for the next decade. The Chiefs, it feels good to go win it and be like, hey, we have a chance for the next decade.
Does it feel good, even though you know that you basically have Satan himself as your quarterback. I mean, nobody can be that perfect. This is Beelzebub. This is Damien from The Omen. Nobody can be that perfect.
It's crazy.
He's great. He's nice. He does things for his community.
Yep.
He's well-spoken. He's the kindest guy. Anytime anybody, I've noticed this, by the way. And don't get me wrong. I'm not applauding him. I hate him. Anytime anyone asks him a question about himself.
Oh, I know what you're about to say. Yep.
He turns it to the team.
Yep.
He will never accept, oh, you're the greatest. He goes, well, I got a great team. Blah, blah, blah. Every time.
Right away.
And it took me a while to figure this out. And you and I talked about it before the game. He is Derek Jeter. He's the Derek Jeter of football.
I like that take.
He's the Derek Jeter of football. I hated Derek Jeter every time he put on the pinstripes. Every time he stepped foot on the field, I couldn't stand the man for no legitimate reason.
Yeah.
For no reason. He's the nicest human being on the planet.
That's great.
He never gets caught out late with his pants down, doing things he ought not to do. He's good to his community. He's just he's just too perfect. I don't like it. I need some raw rub somewhere.
And pair that with cheeseburger-loving American man, Andy Reid.
Don't you make me like the Chief. Don't you do it. Also, I didn't even think about this until after the game. And I know that it was brought up prior, and you were probably thinking about it the entire time. Reid got fired, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles fired him.
Yeah, well, they say they mutually parted ways, but yeah, I think the Eagles definitely had the bigger say in that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's a pretty special time for the Chiefs fans out there. And now we have to deal with no football for what? 6 months?
Yeah, no, well, unless you can account USFL.
They ran some ads, didn't they?
Hey,
guys, we're professionals too. Please, for the love, watch our product. You got nothing else.
It's going to fail again. It's going to fail.
Well, they're propping it up with some outside money. It's kind of like Live Golf to me.
If they could get a name in there like an old Terrell Owens or like a Johnny Manziel who never made, like something like that to headline it, but I don't think they even have that.
What's Herschel Walker doing? I mean, he's not doing anything, right?
Yeah, he's not busy.
He's not busy. I mean, Herschel Walker come in here 60 years old, whip all our asses.
He would destroy.
Just get out on the field, Hirsch. Make some noise.
I would watch that.
Not doing anything. All right, while you're here, here's my cool story of the day. Have you, and I would play this audio, but all you can hear is just crowd noise and yelling. Did you see Auburn, Alabama, storied rivalry, not only on the football field, but that rivalry's now spilled over to the basketball court. And isn't Alabama playing Tennessee in Knoxville this week?
Tonight?
Is that tonight?
I believe that's tonight.
I think they come in as the number one team in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And Tennessee could well go up. They could go a long way in terms of seeding in March Madness for what I know about basketball. I mean, you could fill an arena, but I think it would help their seeding if they could knock off the number one team in the country, obviously. But did you see what happened at the Auburn-Alabama game this past Saturday?
I didn't. Must have missed this. It's tomorrow, by the way. Excuse me.
All right, tomorrow. The wife was watching this. We were having some late lunch with friends, and she was watching over my shoulder as Auburn was defeated by Alabama on their home court, Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers. However, it's what happened at halftime that I'm bringing up. So it might be the best shot on the Auburn basketball court all season. An Auburn student by the name of Craig Noyes, Noyes. So each halftime, they bring a student out of the stands. I guess they don't have advance notice. And they have a shot to make a 94-foot putt. Golf putt with a golf ball and a putter across the entirety of the court into a golf-sized hole on the other end. And you win you win a car if you make the putt. No one has made the putt in the last 8 years until Saturday, when Craig Noyes made a 94-foot putt.
Wow.
Sank it to win an automobile. It's pretty cool. And obviously the crowd erupted. What's the longest putt you've ever made?
Well, I was about to ask you. You're a regular golfer. I mean, what?
I mean,
what gets you stoked?
You've holed out. I mean, holding out's fun. I've made 5 eagles in my life, and all of them have been from the fairway because I don't have the length to get on the green to make an eagle. So I've never had a hole-in-one. I've seen 2 hole-in-ones. Those are pretty incredible. Just the reaction to them. I think probably the greatest golf moment that I've ever witnessed in my life came at the Masters. We were at a practice round at Augusta National. And on hole number 16, which is a par 3 that's got water over it, during practice rounds, they have a tradition to skip, and you can see some of the highlights of this on ESPN or whatever. They skip the ball over the water and try to get on the green. So it's a lot of fun, and a lot of people collect around the 16th hole to watch this. So John Daly, in one of the years that he was actually eligible to be at the Masters, he's there on 16, and it's probably the loudest golf roar I've ever heard, and this was in a practice round.
Wow.
So he hits a shot, and he blows the green. His first shot, he just blows it over the green. And he throws another ball down, and he takes another whack at it. And that green is so tilted, it's impossible to describe the elevation changes and the transition in the green when you're watching on television. And he hit a ball that was probably 80 feet from the hole, but because of the elevation and the slope of the hole, the ball, it completely stopped. I was watching it. It's his third ball, completely stopped, and it took one revolution. And when it took that revolution, it took the feed. It took it maybe 45 seconds to get to the hole, and it fell in the hole.
Wow.
And I've never heard a crowd erupt like that. It meant nothing. It was a practice round.
Course.
It was his third ball that he hit anyway. But the people just went absolutely incredible. And for me, I mean, you make a couple of 40-footers, but those are just happenstance or whatnot. All right, well, congratulations once again. It's the last time that I will bring up your Chiefs victory ever. So enjoy it.
Okay.
You know why? Moment's over.
Fair enough.
Yeah. On to next season.
We'll be back.
2:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
an update on the mass shooting at Michigan State University and some news involving rape kits and how fast they're processed here in the state of Tennessee. That and more at 3.
Important news coming up in just a moment. Mack Morey will have all of that, The Drive with Brian Wilson after that. I just want to note for everyone watching on television, Mack Morey is not nearly as buff as he appears on camera. He is not nearly that pumped. He is not doing it is not arm day in Camp Morey. I'm just keeping it real, baby. Just trying to keep it real. Also, remember Singles Awareness Day. If you see a single eating tonight while you're out with your couples, go ahead and pay for their meal and walk over to them and say happy sad. Singles Awareness Day, February 14th every year. We're back tomorrow. Till then, so long.
Three o'clock, I'm Mack Morey with your top stories. Right now, 66 degrees, expecting some showers and some thunderstorms later on tonight. A wind advisory in effect starting right now. Wind gusts of up to 40 miles an hour, regular wind of 25 to 30 miles an hour. So make sure you're prepared for all that starting here in the next few hours. Weather, traffic coming up in just a few minutes, starting with the mass shooting in Michigan State University that's reeling from last night's shooting, in which police say a 43-year-old man who's not connected to the school shot and killed 3 students, wounded 5 others. Karen Travers has the reaction from President Biden.
President Biden called the shooting at Michigan State University a, quote, family's worst nightmare.
It's happening far too often in this country. Far too often.
The president highlighted the bipartisan gun safety bill he signed into law last year, but said there is still a lot more work to do, and Washington must do something to stop the gun violence that he says is, quote, ripping apart our communities.
There is no rationale for assault weapons and magazines that hold 50, 70 bullets.
In Tennessee, Hendersonville police are working a rape case and need anyone with information to come forward in case there are more victims. News 2 says 39-year-old Jay Chandler faces more than 100 rape charges based on 1,000 images on his phone and other devices police say depict child pornography. Commander Scott Ryan.
It is sickening. However, we know what we signed up for, and we have a group of dedicated men and women that are willing to walk through the muck and the mire to help carry victims to the other side so they're able to transition from victim to survivor.
Chandler's set to be in court in April. And on this subject, a new bill's been proposed in Tennessee that'll require rape kits to be processed within 30 days of delivery. If for some reason the kit's not processed within that time window, the bill says the Bureau must provide the local law enforcement agency with a written explanation for the delay. And if passed, this law will go into effect on or after July 1st. The TBI has taken nearly a year to process some DNA tests from rape kits because of ongoing staffing shortages. And this all became a prominent conversation after Eliza Fletcher was kidnapped and killed while on a morning run in Memphis. That killer was not charged for some time due to how much time it took to process the rape kit. And this bill is sponsored by Senator London Lamar in Memphis. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mack Morey, WTN News.